All right, Reggie. Hey, thanks for joining. I'm excited to talk to you today and kind of just hear a little bit about your story and about how you've kind of come to where you are today. You own a business. You do a lot of podcasting and you've been doing public speaking. So maybe tell us a little bit about where you are today, what you're doing, and then take us back to where you come from, kind of what your story is of how you got to be where you are today.
Thank you very much for having me, Steve. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Uh, yeah, I would love to share some of my stories, and hopefully this will resonate with your listeners, and something that they can take away from my story and my experiences. So first, my name is Reggie Tu. I'm a physical therapist, a keynote speaker, and I help also practice owners to grow the business and achieve the time and financial freedom without the overwhelm that most of us know comes with it. Uh,
Hmm.
for me, my I started my journey back in the Philippines. So I was born in a poor neighborhood in the Philippines, a poor family there, and I was bullied for being different because I was one of two Chinese kids in the neighborhood.
Hmm.
Life is it's tough when you're different, and that was really the start of everything because right from a very young age you learn how to stand up for yourself. Because my parents always taught me before, hey, you know what, just let them be. Because they would chant racial rhymes at me, like make those
Hmm.
squinty eye gestures. I never liked that, but because my parents told me don't get involved, I let it go. But that didn't make things better. That
Hmm.
actually made things worse.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I started standing up for myself, meaning started literally fighting physically for myself, when things got better. And that built that thing, for me, the fighting attitude, not literally fighting every time, but you know that you have to fight for what you want.
And how's that shaped kind of how you approach business? I imagine, an entrepreneur having to fight for what they want. I think that just comes pretty natural, or is a skill set that everybody, can help them. But how has that affected the way you showed up, the way you led, and how you kind of live life in terms of feeling like, okay, everything that I'm going after, I've got to fight for, or maybe fight others for that. How did that shape you?
So it made a very big impact in who I am and in my mindset and how I think and do things. When I was young, I didn't understand. I didn't know why things were happening like that. Like why me? Why do I see other people they seem to have a better life? So why do I have to go through all these struggles? And when I
Hmm.
came to America and to where I am now, then I realized all those struggles were preparing me for the journey ahead, which is when I got to America, I came here with $50 in my pocket. And I used to collect cans just so I can have grocery money, so I can support myself. Because I
Hmm.
didn't have a job coming here, so I didn't have money and I didn't have connections. And that was a tough place to be in. And after I took my licensure exam, back in the days we had the yellow pages. For some of your listeners, if you're younger, you may not know what the yellow pages is. Those are yellow big thick book. I called all the companies there trying to land a job. At that time, there was a recession in the medical field, so very few
Hmm.
companies were hiring. I didn't stop until I got somebody who was going to hire me. So between that, thinking that, hey, you know what? I know, because I had this false belief from people when I was young. They say, "Oh, America's great. The you get eat money is easy, food is plenty," and I had this false belief of what America looks like. People in the Philippines who still until now will believe that money grows on trees in America. Then when I got here, I'm like, that cannot be further from the truth. So that experience from when I was young, going into struggling to get a job, working three jobs at one point to support myself, because at that time my company sponsored me for my working papers. In exchange for that, they pay you very little. At least I was paid very little. So I had to have 3 jobs just to support myself. Until now, you go into entrepreneurship. But I still remember the day that pushed me into entrepreneurship, because that day is the day that I got fired. It wasn't, I didn't plan on opening up my own. I had thinking of maybe I open up my own business someday. But then
there's no glorious launch.
No, it was more of an act of desperation, because that night when the boss came to the clinic, I still remember it, he said in one sentence, "You're fired. No thank you, no explanation."
That's it.
After 10 plus years, and I helped grow that company to twice the size. We became a household name in the neighborhood. And that time...
What were some of the lessons that you learned between getting from, I'm assuming you came over from the Philippines to the United States after your education, you were an adult, it sounds like, timing wise. And in that 10 years, what were some of the lessons you learned that you feel like prepared you? And were any of those lessons, just like that fighting attitude? Okay, that's great for entrepreneurship. It's not always great for leadership, because sometimes we don't turn that off. And so what were some of the lessons that you learned that brought over that helped you, but what were also some of the lessons that maybe hindered you, that you had to relearn or re-explore how you showed up as a leader?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because that fighting attitude kept me going through those hardships. Like when I got fired, to make things worse, I had to go home to I was newly married at that time, and I had to go home to my new wife and tell her, "Hey, hon, I just got fired for the first day after we got married." That was a tough,
oh my gosh.
Thing. Right? You can imagine that. And then after that, it affected, so financially we struggled, and unfortunately it affected our marriage and led to us getting divorced. And at that point, I said to myself, I will never put my faith in anyone else's hands again. So I started my own business instead of working for somebody else, because I don't want to get fired again.
Right.
But that fighting, or that persistence, and I say persistence is one of my superpowers, if not my superpower, because I keep going. But that persistence can work too at the negative side. Like you said, Steve, when you're fighting, because when you're leading people, you cannot be fighting all the time. You cannot be in that fighting mode all the time, because people don't receive it very well. And that ultimately led me to, there's 1 year that I had 27 people in and out of my clinic, and I had a team of 6 at that time. So you can imagine the culture was very toxic. It was high turnover, high stress. That's the epitome of that fighting not working well for you in leadership.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your experience up until this point, of maybe outside of your job. What was it like coming over as an immigrant, getting accustomed to a new culture? I'm assuming that you're in Queens now. So did you come over and have you always been in Queens? What's been that experience like for you? And how did that shape you and prepare you to be where you are today?
Yeah, so when I got to America, I landed in Queens. I had some relatives in Queens. And here's one of the things I learned. I learned a few major points there. One is family sometimes is not as good as your friends can be. Sometimes your friends might be better than some of your families. And I say that with love and respect to everybody else, but that has been my experience. And just give you one example that I still remember. I stayed with my aunt at that time. And during one night, we were having dinner with her friends. And people were asking about me, because they were saying, "Hey, how are you?" Like, I'm the new guy. Everybody's curious, right?
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, she said out loud in front of everyone, "He eats so much." Like, in that, it was really traumatizing to me, because I felt so humiliated in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things I learned, is, hey, you know what? You're nobody's coming to save you. The other
Okay.
part, the other part, there will be your culture. There's a culture difference, big culture difference from coming from, my background is, yes, I'm from Philippines, but I'm Chinese. It's a big culture difference between there and here. And
Okay.
one of the things is here, especially in New York, we're more upfront, very straightforward. We say what we think. In the Philippines, they like to go around the bush. Like, they don't tell you they don't like you. And I say this with respect to, I say this because I'm from Philippines. They would stab you in the back. But here it happens too. But that's because they are not as comfortable confronting. As a culture,
Okay.
it's more peaceful culture. So there are things that happen in the background. So that's a big thing I had to get used to. You cannot be that sensitive because then I started meeting American people, and they tell you, and I'm like, oh wow, I feel hurt. But then, no, they were just telling you. They didn't mean to disrespect you. They were just conveying a point.
Straight up.
They were just telling you, right? Especially
Right.
if it's about
Right.
work, business, they're just telling you. They're not trying to offend you. Or at least most people don't. Some may be, but in my experience, even if they're not trying to offend you or telling you anything bad, we take it, because of the cultural difference, we take it the wrong way. So that's one of the big things also that I had to get used to, that shift in the mindset. And the third one is, I think almost all immigrants can relate to this, is the feeling that you're inferior because of your accent, because you can't think as well. As fluent as my English is right now, as good as I talk in English now, I still have a little bit of pause in between, especially if I'm thinking, because it's not 100% natural like my son. My son is born here. So he thinks in
Right.
English. For us, we still have to take a little bit of time. So that makes us a little more inferior. Example there will be, let's say in conferences. You rarely would see, especially if they're new immigrants, raise their hands and answer a question, even though they know the answer. Just because they
Right.
don't know, they're so afraid that what they say might sound stupid or dumb.
Right. 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 So how did you overcome that? How did you change it? Because I mean, obviously you're not shy, and you've had your ups and downs, and have found some success. How did you overcome that sense of, inferiority, which is just, it had no indication of your abilities, but just kind of your perception of yourself. How'd you deal with that?
It was a long process. I have to go through several stages just so I can overcome that mindset, that inferiority feeling, your lack of self-confidence. The first thing is, when it comes to the family, I said, you know what, I realized nobody's coming to save me. Just like, I wouldn't say just like this, because in the street, when you're with your group, at least you know somebody got your back. At least those are the friends
Right.
that you have. Growing up in the street, that's a big thing that I learned is you have people who you are with, and they got your back. Nobody snitches and nobody throws anybody on the bus. But when I got here, I was basically almost by myself. I said, you know what? I have to stand up, because I cannot let this affect me, because I only have two things at that point. One, I keep going. Two, I go back to the Philippines, and there is no way I'm going to go back there, because
Right.
the life that I want, I can clearly see it's here. And plus, you don't want to go back there and get humiliated. So that's the other motivation there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I started overcoming that. And when it comes to the accent, and this a story I share with very few people, I started practicing English more in the mirror. So that's a given. A lot of people do that. But I watch a couple shows that help me in terms of my everyday conversation. And those shows are, I don't know if you know or still remember, Steve, Jerry Springer and Maury. And I tell you why. It's
High
it's
cultural
because,
icons.
yes. And I tell you why. It's because with my level of education, I know I can speak proper grammar. I know I can speak English. I know the words. But it's
Right.
not natural, so it's not conversational. So the slang is what I was missing, and some of the f-bombs here and there. Like, sometimes you have to put that out there to assert yourself, especially for some people who you don't know, and then they
Right.
look at you. It's not uncommon. They see me Asian. I don't know why. As diverse as Queens is, I will go to certain parts that I'll be different. and they talk to you like you don't know English.
Really?
So
Isn't
yes,
that
and
interesting?
that helped me be able to respond. And once you open your mouth and you respond, and now people all of a sudden like step back. So that helped me with the accent and the language part. The language, especially with the everyday language. So
You
I
know,
think those are two big things that helped me.
I met a non-native speaker, and this gentleman was from Guatemala, and he and I were talking. I said, "Where did you learn English?" And he said he was 19, and he said, "I watched cartoons," and that's how he learned English, is watching cartoons. And so it's a totally legitimate way, because one, you hear how people speak, and you hear what it is, and you learn to mimic and the pronunciation. So I think that's that's a pretty common way to do it. But there's a certain scrappiness to that, of saying, okay, I've got to learn. This is what I have to learn, and here's how I'm going to do it. I imagine that had to be a great entrepreneurial trait of, you know what, I've got this obstacle. Here's how am I going to overcome it. It doesn't matter how, but just that you do. Have you seen that play out in just building your own business?
Yes. And when I was young, I didn't know or see it as a great entrepreneurial skill or as an asset that you're going to have. Back then, it was just survival. So that's how
Right.
you will learn to think, get out of trouble or something. But then when I became a business owner, a private practice owner, you have different things that's going to get thrown at you. So the question now I always say to myself is, how? There's always a way. You may not like the way, but there's always a way. And I try to find that way. Doesn't matter what it is, it's worth exploring the option.
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit. So you've learned these lessons coming over from the Pillings, growing up, how to be scrappy, how to just stand up for yourself, how to fight for what you want. And yet some of these lessons have also maybe not served you well in terms of leading people. You talked about the cultural problems, 27 people in 1 year in a team of 6. I mean, that's painful turnover. Super expensive too. So
Yes.
what did you do? How did you overcome and change your leadership style? How did you build a culture, and how did you step into a leadership persona that allowed you to be successful?
That's a great question there, Steve. It's similar to when I was in the Philippines and I'm just tired of being broke and being disrespected and struggling. I said, I had to make a change. I would move halfway around the world, leave everybody behind, even loved ones, just so I can have the chance to have a better life. So similar to this, I was thinking something's got to change, because this is very painful, very stressful, and like you said, Steve, very costly. So the question is, why is this happening? At the beginning, I was thinking, oh, I just hire bad people. They're bad people. That's what I was thinking at the beginning.
It's their fault.
It's their fault.
Yeah.
Then when I looked at it further, I realized that it's not only them, that it's me too. So, but don't get me wrong, some of them, they deserve to get fired, right? I mean,
Sure.
some of them not the best. But a lot of it has something to do with me as well. So I decided to do more personal development, work on myself, and that led me to being a better person, a better father, and hopefully a better partner in the future, and a better leader overall. Because now I go back to what are my values, and I look for people who are aligned with that, not only looking at shiny resumes, because that doesn't make the cut for me.
Right. So what did you do? I mean, what resources? I mean, was it just reading books? Did you, how did you engage that side of yourself? Because heaven knows there's enough books out there to read, but yet, we know that knowledge isn't enough. We know, but we don't do. So how did you flip that switch to be able to really change kind of how you think and who you are as a business owner?
So, a couple people have influenced me in terms of being able to learn how to make that change. Because
Okay.
I decided at that time I'm gonna go into personal. Because before that, I was thinking, hey, you know what? Let me look at entrepreneurship, practice growth. So, I was following more or less the PT people, or even not PTs, gonna be business people.
Right.
I switched from that to following people who are in the personal development field. One of the big
Okay.
names there, which at the beginning shaped it started create this different thinking in me when I started listening to Tony Robbins, and there were some of his videos, even challenges. I know they're meant to sell something, but still, it made me think differently.
Okay.
So that is one of them. And then there's another person that Brendon also mentioned something like that. There's more motivation, and then you look at the way they're leading, and then some of the books that I read there, more or less helped me in doing that. Which is, I started learning some of people's love languages, and interestingly, is I started reading that for my son to improve my relationship with my son. Because I said, what are the 5 love languages? So for my son and also for my future partner. And
Sure.
then I realized that even your staff will have their own love languages. Then you extend it to that, because everybody shares the same thing. That's one of the big things. And I was conscious enough at that time also that the emotional intelligence is a big factor. Because from
Okay.
school, I've always been top of my class. I know IQ is very, very high. The EQ is not. And I've heard that before, especially from my ex-wife, and I think that's one of the reasons that affected it.
Sure.
So she does have a point at that time when it comes to that. I said, you know what? Even as hurt as I am hearing that, there is something to it. And let me improve that, because the IQ doesn't change, the EQ does. It does improve. So I use that more. I tap in more into that gut feel that you sometimes you have, and I just tap into that, tune into that more, and it has produced very great results for me.
That's awesome. Awesome. What do you do outside of work? There's got to be something you do other than read books and, entrepreneurship. What else are you doing?
Yes. Interesting when you say read. I have a hard time reading books because I fall asleep easily. I actually listen to books. So I have the physical copy, but I buy the audiobook. So I have audio.
Sure.
I listen to it, and then I have the physical copy. I highlight it, so when I go back, it's easier to review rather than the bookmarks in the audio. So
Sure.
I do both. So whoever's the author I'm reading or following, they sell me twice. So that's one. The other thing that I love what I do. I work most of the time. I know people say, "Oh, you get burnout." The thing is, burnout is if you don't love what you do. If you love what you do, I don't believe that you get burnout because you're passionate about it. Example
Sure.
is if you have a hobby. Do you get burned out playing? Let's say you're playing basketball and you love that. Do you get burned out playing basketball every day? No. You would breathe doing that every
Right.
day. So for me, aside from doing my work, and now I'm really, really passionate about doing my keynotes and spreading my story, my message. The other thing that my son and I do is we love martial arts. So for me, I have a background in martial arts. I'm a black belt. So we watch UFC. We watch pay-per-view or fight night. That's the Saturday night that we get together. Now he's older. He can stay up late. We get
Right.
together. We watch that. And for me, that's the most important time of the week because that's our time. That's
Right.
that's the male bonding. We joke around like with the announcer, or sometimes we would mock sparring, things like that. So that's the other thing that I do outside of working.
That's awesome. Reggie, when you think about your whole journey, entrepreneurship, what does it mean to you to be CEO of your company?
That's a deep question, Steve. So for me, being the CEO, being the leader of the company, I always keep in mind that I am responsible for the people who are working for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the company, we have our numbers that we have to meet, right? Because we have
Right.
to keep our doors open. We have our metrics. Profit. I'm not gonna lie. I love serving people, but I love making money too. So we have to
Okay.
have that profit, because I came to America, sacrifice everything so I can have a better future for myself and my family. But aside from that, the bigger thing that I keep in mind is, as being the leader, is you're responsible now for everybody's underneath you. So I have a staff of 10 now, and it's just in person and virtual. So I am responsible for 10 people, 10 families. So I
Right.
cannot let myself go, meaning overwork myself too much, or physically not be in shape, or mentally not being well in good condition, because I am responsible for all these families, and I take that job very, very seriously. So that's what I think of being a CEO, aside from growing the business. And the other thing is, then as a CEO, we are the visionary of the company. So the question is, where do I want to lead my company to? At beginning, we want to serve the community. We want to provide the best care for the people in the community, get them pain-free. Great. Now, for me, and my staff knows this, and I'm so blessed. They're very supportive, and they allow me to be able to do what I do now, or even other talks.
Sure.
I want to be able to share my message, inspire other people, make them see what's possible for them. And it's not only immigrants, because people in America struggle too. There's a lot of
Sure.
people struggling. So they put in the work. They're ready to put in the work. They have the mindset that they can achieve that. And that's a message I want to share. Now, that's the different level. Yes, Restore Plus Physical Therapy is the company, but then there's that different branch now. That's me doing my visionary work, that we're serving people health-wise, physically, and then we're serving people also mindset-wise, affect their financials even.
Awesome. Last question. If you were to go back to Reggie in the Philippines, fighting in the streets, trying to, take care of life, what advice would you give him?
If I will go back, I will tell my younger self is just hang in there. Things will eventually turn out. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep fighting. Because at that time, I used to ask a lot of questions, doubt myself, blame. I'm not the most religious person you're gonna meet. So whatever you believe in, God, universe, I always say, why me? Why am I being punished? What did I do? What sin did I commit to deserve this? And I would just tell myself, hey, you know what? Just get rid of those thoughts. Just chill. Just keep going. Do what you have to do. And everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for us. And it will all eventually work out.
Awesome. Reggie, thank you. Appreciate you and just having this conversation, and congratulations. I mean, to go from being a poor immigrant in the Philippines to an immigrant in the United States with $50, and now you've got a 7-figure business. You're exploring new avenues. Congratulations.
Thank
Really
you very much,
impressive.
Ethan. I really appreciate the opportunity. And as we close this is one thing I want to leave with your listeners is life is going to knock you down. That's a guarantee. But to stay down, that's a choice. You decide.
Awesome. Reggie, thank you.
Thank you, Tusi.